December was an interesting month, so let's just hop right into that and then we'll talk about my intentions that I have for January. So let's start off with books. I really fell off the bandwagon for any tarot related reading. I think that I got a little burnt out from nonfiction overall. I had read a lot of nonfiction in 2024, which is really awesome, but I was feeling a little burnt out by it. And so instead of reading nonfiction, I kind of really turned to fiction. And I think that's okay. I had a really good time. It helped me to unwind a little bit and remember that reading isn't always a chore, because when I read nonfiction, or even when I do read fiction, my English major brain kind of turns on and I'm highlighting and writing in the margins and picking apart the book. And I really enjoyed my reading month in December. I was reading for fun. It reminded me that it's okay not to have to highlight everything or think about everything or journal about things or do homework all the time when we're reading. And speaking of reading, in November I had posted a video about reevaluating my 2024 goals. One of them was to try and hit my mark, my Goodreads goal. I think it was 25 books, and I had to read 9 books in the last 2 months. And I did not hit that mark. I believe I read 6, so it was a very good effort and a good attempt. And, you know, I'm walking away pretty proud of myself for continuing to try and hit that goal and actually really coming close and being dedicated to trying to make it work. Even though I didn't end up hitting that mark, I appreciate the effort that I put in. So going forward, and my intentions for January as far as reading, I think I'm going to continue with the fiction read and focusing on just having fun with reading. And my first book of 2025 and for this month will be Beartown by Frederick Bachman, which I did post about on my Instagram. So if you're not following me there, it's simply Han_tarot. You can kind of catch all the things that I'm up to in between video posts. And I had posted about this book being my selection for my first read of 2025. I've had this on my TBR or to be read list for a really long time. I've owned this copy for a little while now, and it's about Beartown, a small town who's very obsessed with hockey, and so it takes place in winter as well, and I thought it would be a really good book to read while it's still winter. And there's a bit of I think a mystery going on in this as well. So that's what I will be reading for January. Next up, let's talk about my oracle card or oracle cards of the month of December, which were Empathy and Empower. And I have searched everywhere and I have misplaced Empathy and Empower. I used the Love Oracle of Eden cards oracle deck, which is a photographic based deck, and I pulled both simultaneously for the month of December, and I really struggled with both empathy and empowerment in December. I really didn't look back at these cards too much after I pulled them. I did my homework here where I defined the terms, I looked up the symbols, and I brought forward some of the mantras and pieces of the guidebook that really called out to me, and then I jotted down initial journal prompts or spread questions to consider, but I did not do anything with them. December was a particularly tough month for me, so I think I thought about empower and empathy like maybe a little bit, and I was just like, these messages are not resonating for this month. I don't feel empowered. I feel the complete opposite, and I have little to no empathy for myself. I find that I'm very empathetic towards other people, but I just wasn't having it for myself. So I was already feeling very low energy, especially towards the later half of December. So I didn't force myself to do any journaling or spreads around this. I think I told myself that doing this work here was good enough, and that's kind of how I handled the month. So just being transparent and honest. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay that we have off months, because there are going to be times when life just feels a little bit more overwhelming and more difficult to deal with than others. And so maybe that's, in hindsight, where I gave myself some empathy and empowerment, is just telling myself it was okay to kind of let this practice go to the sideline a little bit. So maybe in hindsight, it makes sense. It kind of has a good circle there, so I'm happy with that, and I'll take it. And as per usual in these videos, we're going to pull the next month's oracle card right here together. And if you didn't see, I believe it was my year ahead plans, but I ended up choosing blindly from a jar this Mystic Path Oracle, which is going to be my Oracle deck of 2025. So every month I will be pulling from this deck, and it's going to be pretty different because this does not come with a guidebook. It has this really tiny little fold out here that talks about the Oracle itself, how to engage with it, how to use it, and that's kind of it. It kind of calls on you to use your intuition, and so in that regard, my monthly oracle, they will be shifting a little bit, and I think that's okay. I think I'm ready for it. I learned a lot from the Love Oracle of Eden cards, and I'm ready to embrace what this oracle deck has in store for me. So with all that being said, let us shuffle and see what January has in store. And of course, I know I'm pulling these for myself in my own personal practice, but if any of these messages resonate with you, or if you want to use them as well, please feel free. I would honestly be honored. Okay, so the card that I pulled here is In Silence. Truth speaks without words. Listen with your heart. Very beautiful. Lots to think about and go on. And I've always felt this way too, that silence says a lot, and it is pretty loud, ironically. So this month I'll be working with In Silence. Very cool. Looking forward to seeing how this unfolds, and I'm going to think about how I'm going to organize this. I think I'll still define more silence. I think I'll still pick out symbols and colors to explore, but I don't have a guidebook to go on. I just have these little phrases down here. So I'm going to think about how I can really lean more into my intuition with things instead of relying on a guidebook, which I think is a positive thing for my practice. So now let's move on to the decks that I used in December. The first half of the month I was heavily using my decks, and then the month got really crazy, as I kind of mentioned before, and I really dropped my usage and readings quite a bit. Any readings that I did do in the last 2 weeks were really kept more private. I wasn't sharing maybe as many pictures or insights on Instagram, but the decks that I have here, I have 4, and I'm going to showcase them 2 by 2 because not that I necessarily paired them, although this did happen. Okay, I'm back. The trials and tribulations of having a smaller desk space. And I have a closet there to the left, and the cards even slid under the teeny tiny, like barely like enough space, and they like slid all the way into the closet, so anywho, we're back. So I think, as I was trying to say, is I'm pairing 2 groups of 2 based on how frequently I reached for and used them. And I didn't necessarily pair them together, but I may have at some point. But first I have Astrea's Dream and Spirit Cat's Oracle. I think I probably should pair these together because visually I think that the colors really go well together. But this little deck here, the Spirit Cats, is really comforting and is exactly what I really needed in that second half of December. I needed that gentle spirit with me in cat form. I mean, I do have my own real live cats, but I needed that like spiritual guidance animal figure to kind of be along with me in my head throughout the day. And it provided a lot of comfort for me. It was like a warm hug. And I did end up using and selecting 2 cards from this deck to be in my manifestation box video. And so if you haven't seen that, I will link it up above. We just create a manifestation box together. It's kind of a non-talking video. I was feeling really overstimulated, so I put some nice music on, and you can hear the music and the sounds of crafting. I do pop up words up on the screen, but I don't know, I'm really proud of that video. It took a lot of editing to do, and Astrea's Dream was a wonderful companion. This deck and I are really, truly bonding quite a lot. And it's tough to say because that's the reason why I bring decks into my collection, is there's an initial interest and maybe spark of hopeful connection that I have visually with the decks. And sometimes when you get them in hand, that can either work in your favor, or maybe perhaps it doesn't, or maybe not right away. But I'm so glad that I have this deck in my collection. It's really hard to describe or put into words, but I really believe that if you look up Astrea and who she is and some of her lore and history, it really fits the bill. I think this artist did a wonderful job with the color and the art style to match that whole concept and embodiment of Astrea. It's very cerebral. It's very connected to the higher self. It broadens my mind. It seems like it might be cold or harsh, but it's not. It just is very like third eye opening in a way. And the crown chakra, that's kind of how I would describe this deck. So I gravitated towards it because of those reasons. The next two decks I have here are the Fantasy Garden Tarot along with the Vetti Tarot. The Fantasy Garden is or has like a similar bonding trajectory that Astrea's Dream has. I'm really enjoying working with it. It has truly come forward as a really lovely companion for me. It really holds my hand. I don't know, I just am very appreciative to have come across this little deck here. And the Vetti Tarot feels very mystical and very magical, and that's really how I feel or associate December. It's a magical, mystical, wonderful time. Even though I didn't have the best month of December, I still appreciated, like, this is how I wanted it to feel, I guess, in December. That's not necessarily what I got, but to have that art there and that vibe there that I was seeking was really comforting, I think, for me. So you have the Vetti Tarot and the Fantasy Garden Tarot. Next, I want to talk about the decks that I have my eye on and intend to use in January. The first one is Tarot of the Animal Lords, and this is a deck that I have already started using. I did choose it as along with Beartown to pair with as my first deck of the year to use, so I've done a few readings with it. It's been wonderful so far. The animal energy here has really shown up well for me, and I connect better with animals most of the time than I do with humans. So I think having this to further represent that connection I have with animals is really helping me to reframe coming out of a really hard time. It's helping me shift my perspective a little bit, because what happens, what is, you know, it is. I had a hard time in December, but that doesn't mean I need to carry that with me in January. And it has been a really odd start to the year, but I still have that hope. I'm still making the efforts to change it, and I think that's most important. And I did see I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw a post somewhere that was like, you know, the new year doesn't necessarily symbolize, like, it's still connected. December and January are still connected. They're still side by side, and it can feel not that vastly separated. Just because a new year turns over doesn't mean we've fully let go of things that have happened in the past year or even prior to. And I really resonated with that, and I felt that deeply, and it's so true. I think we think it will magically just disappear, all of our problems, when a new year comes around, a new birthday comes around, or what have you. That's not always the case, and this deck has been teaching me that that's okay, but you can still remain positive. I don't know, I've been really having a lot of wisdom. This was my most recent pull with this deck, which I do have a little post on Instagram, but I'm looking forward to continuing to use this one, and this is Tarot of the Animal Lords. The next deck I intend to use in January is the Burning Tiger Tarot. I did mention that I recently got this in, and I have flipped through it. I've just flipped through it. I haven't really used it for any readings yet, but I'm super excited to be able to do so. I can't wait to do an interview spread with this deck. I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it has a very unique voice. I think it's really going to teach me a whole hell of a lot that I haven't really considered or thought about before, and I'm excited to start our bonding and our relationship together. It's absolutely stunning. I even like how the borders are different sizes. The images can be wider or more narrow. I don't know why. I just feel like that adds so much character to this deck. It really speaks in its own way. It goes its own way. And the intention and work behind this is very, like, forward. It's very apparent. And oh, look at this star card. I mean, how brilliant is that? Love it. Just a lot of cool things to look at and arrangements of the collage work. So I'm looking forward to exploring this more. The next deck is the Nosotras Tarot. I have a strong bond to this deck, and I am purely seeking it for that bond and that comfort. It has established itself as a companion for me. It's always spot on, but it's always supportive too. And right now that's really what I need. I need that truthful friend that delivers the truth in a very tactful and respectful way. It's not too blunt, but it's still the truth. And this is what this deck does for me. I can't ever get enough of the images. I love it so much. I don't know what more I can say about it. I'm just really happy to return to using this one a little bit more. The last two decks I have here on my intention to read with. This is the Illuminated deck of Holy Souls by Lindsay D. Williams, who is the creator of Desert Illuminations Tarot, which is now out in mass market, which is awesome. And I saw that she was coming out with an oracle deck, and one surrounded by or featuring saints from across all cultures. And I love her color choices. I love her color story. It's very bold, bright. It doesn't shy away from that, and I really like it. And I just didn't want to miss out on this one. And this recently came in at the last week or so of December. I mean, yes, nudity warning here, but how brilliant is this? I just think it's awesome. It's just a very kick-ass deck, and I'm looking forward to getting to know these saints a little bit more, because I don't really have that knowledge or background, and I think it's really going to be a great study tool for me to look into their background and their stories a little bit more and just learn a bunch of new things. So that is the Illuminated deck of Holy Souls. And the last deck I have here that I want to work with is my home oracle. Again, this is explicitly a comfort selection. I love this deck so much. It's truly a great, warm friend, and it makes me feel better when I'm feeling sad or down, and I think it will be a great companion to nurturing me back to a better headspace, to a better emotional state, to a better everything. It's a shyer deck. It's more introspective. It's got quiet brilliance about it, and that's just what I'm really needing as well. So I am going to be reaching for this one a lot. Next, I wanted to go through my cards of the year for my year ahead spread, which I did in my year-end video, if you didn't catch that. But Shanna D here, the lovely Shanna D here on YouTube, she requested or kindly asked me to go through the cards that I pulled and provide a little bit more insights, a little bit more of what I feel it might mean or what's coming forward. And I thought that was a really wonderful idea, so let's do that right now. So for January, I pulled the 10 of Pentacles, and for this, because I've shared before how last year I had lost my job and how much that has really turned my world upside down in many ways, the manifestation box that I created is heavily centered on like a new career path and financial abundance, because it has been really hard. The financial stability has been touch and go, as you can imagine it might be when one loses their job. But I think it's also speaking to better alignment and understanding of financial choices and tying into that financial stability, but also acknowledging that there's more to life than just financial stability, that wealth comes in all different shapes and forms. There's emotional wealth, there's health wealth, and there's the wealth of your friends and your family and your hobbies and your pets. There's so much around us that we can be so rich in, and it's important to also remember that aspect, that yes, we see 10 coins here, and that represents, you know, that financial aspect, but there's also a family in this depiction, and wealth is more than just money. So that's how I interpret that one. For February, I drew the Magician, and this one feels like, again, I'm totally in a new adventure, job seeking, job hunting, what it is I want to be doing, and laying down ground rules for myself and being a little bit more assertive and asking questions targeted towards what I want, because we have to remember that just as much as companies or whatever are seeking to hire someone to help them with something, they are also being interviewed by the applicant. You can interview the company as well, because it needs to be able to fit for your life and your lifestyle, and have that work-life balance that you are seeking. It's not just a one-way street on what you bring to the table, but it's also about what they bring to the table, how they treat their employees, what they offer as far as traditional benefits, but also work-life balance, and do they care about their employees' happiness and overall well-being, or are they just wanting someone to work until they burn out? That is deeply important too. So the magician here is speaking to, like, I'm going to be learning to wield new tools in my toolbox, or maybe tools that have been in there a while that have gotten dusty and I'm going to have to clean them, dust them off. It speaks about growth and mastery, seeking to learn and improve. Moving on to March, I pulled the 8 of Pentacles for March. So again, you can kind of see a little bit of a theme here for the first quarter. This represents the first quarter of the year, and putting in the hard work and applying what maybe I've learned in the month previous to my hopefully new job. It's speaking about hard work, and hard work is not just dreaming about it, but the action of actually doing it. So I'm putting in the hard work. It's going to be a very studious month, a month where I'm spending a lot of time working toward, or really putting in that work that I've been putting out in the world, that I'm ready for, that I want to do. So that's how I interpret that. And then in April, we have the Knight of Swords. And this one made me a little bit weary at first. I'm not really going to lie about that. The swords always kind of make me a little bit nervous, because it's the suit that I struggle with the most in interpreting and understanding. But there's something that has a lot of momentum. It could be an idea is propelling like fast and furiously forward at full speed. It could be a message. This one I'm kind of unsure of, but those are my initial thoughts. And I guess going along with the swords theme, in May I pulled the 7 of Swords. And again, I'm not really good at interpreting the swords too much, but the initial intuitive draw or jump that I get here is maybe something goes missing or feels like it might be missing. Was it something of my doing that maybe I've been concealing? Or was it something that was taken from me that maybe I'm processing or working through? I don't really know. Of course, if anyone has any insights about these cards here, something I might not be seeing, please let me know below, because I'm always open to seeing how others interpret the cards. That's how we learn and grow from one another. In June, I have here the Moon, and it feels like a time of reflection, maybe related to May's message here. Almost like, how can you reflect on something that's unknowable, right? Something you just aren't sure about or don't have information on, or that's a little bit mysterious. I definitely think that May and June are tied in some way. July, I pulled the 6 of Cups. Something about going back to my roots in some capacity. Maybe there's some nostalgia surrounding my relationship with my sister, because my younger sister is getting married in August. And so maybe there's a lot of feelings of nostalgia and childhood coming up as it looms nearer and nearer. So that's how I interpreted that one. And then for August, I pulled the 3 of Wands. And I think this is very indicative of my sister kind of setting sail on a new voyage of marriage. And it could be related to that for sure, or it could be, I don't know, speaking to maybe something more focused on me, but I definitely feel like it's more related to the wedding. Like, I'm seeing her off in a new way. Like, she's moving forward in life, and she'll have a husband now that she has to consider and put first, before her family. And so that'll be really different and a new adventure for not only her, but for me as well. And because August is when that happens, the action is already taking place. It's already set in stone, and it will have happened, and because it's happening towards the beginning of the month. So yeah, I don't know, just initial insights there. For September, I drew the Ace of Cups, and this to me really spoke to an emotional shed. Again, maybe tying into the previous 2 months, filling my cup with what really matters to me versus what others might expect of me. I am a caregiver type. I am a mediator type. I am someone who is deeply empathetic, but I often forget about myself a lot. And sometimes that really can get me in a pickle, because then I end up having my cup be fully empty while still trying to be there for others, but knowing I have to give some time to myself. So I feel like in September there's really going to be some boundaries here of what is it that really makes me happy versus what others expect of me, or I don't know, feel should make me happy, if that makes sense. In November, we have the Two of Cups, which I think it's really kind of cool to see a sequence here, going from Ace to 2. So obviously there has been some progression in a way, connection and fulfillment and just feeling joy. If I truly put in the call to action that the Ace of Cups is asking me to, I really think that I'm going to be celebrating that and being around people that help me fill my cup as much as I try to be that entity that helps fill their cups up. I think that would be, I don't know, a really lovely thing. And then I pulled the Knight of Cups. So again, a really interesting projection here, and maybe feeling motivated by my newfound emotional fulfillment and seeing where that goes, feeling inspired and refreshed in a way. There's been a lot of emotional heaviness this year, so these months here really lightening that, right? Really turning it into true joy. And our Knight of Cups, he's, you know, the knight in shining armor, and I think that it speaks more to me being my own knight in shining armor and getting to finally live that in action and what that feels like, I guess, is how I would interpret that. And then the last card is the Ten of Wands, which ironically is the card that I also had for December 2024. So that really makes me feel uncomfortable because I do not want to go through another December like that ever again. So this one makes me feel a little weary, but I think it could speak to, like, there's a lot to accomplish in the last month, at least in the working world. It's really like that final push to just persevere and go, and really get to the finish line and meet all the goals that we set out to meet. Hopefully I am better prepared and have a better amount of energy to feel like I can cross that finish line, because this year I don't know if I felt like I did. And then for me, I also pulled the top card of the deck after all these cards were pulled, and that represented what I was taking with me to 2025, and I got the Four of Coins. And I'm hoping that this means more financial knowledge and protection. Maybe it's really hard to live in a world where consumerism is a thing, and especially having hobbies and interests, and on top of that, and a hobby that you share online, there's a lot of pressure to get new decks in and review those decks, because I don't know if it's just me feeling pressure, but I feel like sometimes I catch myself saying the same things about my decks because I have the same decks. You know, I do bring in a few decks every year. I mean, I don't think that'll ever truly stop or change. I love art a lot, and I love tarot a lot, and having like mini works of art in the palm of your hand is really, really cool. And the different perspectives that they bring forward is really awesome. There's different bonds with each of them. So, but at the same time, it can make you feel a type of way. Like, I want people to come to my channel because it's a home base, it's a safe place to just talk about things. And if that's talking about the JK Tarot for the 100th time because it is so awesome, and hey, I've been using it and I really gained this new insight with it, then, you know, so be it. I don't know how else to articulate this. But also, like, the financial responsibility that comes with having hobbies. It's expensive nowadays to have any kind of hobby, let alone live life and pay bills and all of that. And there was a time in my life where I was saving up for the car that I have now. I wanted to pay all cash for it because I wanted it to be mine with like no strings attached in a way, and I really set my mind to it, and I saved all this money, and I haven't been able to, I mean, that's been 5 or 6 years now since I made that purchase, and I've really struggled to be disciplined in being more savvy financially. I think I was so strict with myself for so long that now I'm just like, just living life, you know. But it comes with a balance, so I really want to take with me more balance and more thought, I think, behind money and finances. And a lot of people see this here as this person's maybe guarding these coins a little bit too much. I think I've been a little bit the opposite and pretty nonchalant a little bit, maybe, I don't know, but maybe being a little bit more guarded with it isn't a terrible thing for me. And the bottom of the card, I had the Queen of Pentacles, which I thought was really interesting, and that is something I am leaving behind in 2024. And to be honest, I've really struggled with this interpretation because I almost like wanted them to be switched. Like, let's bring the Queen of Pentacles with me, and then like let's leave this irresponsibility behind, right? But that's not the positions that they came out in. So I don't know, this Queen of Pentacles, she kind of looks a little bit sad. Even though she's got beauty all around her and abundance all around her, she looks quite sad. And I think that when you are struggling financially, it really affects a lot of things, unfortunately. I do wish money weren't a thing, and you know, costs are rising on all fronts in all aspects of life, and it has become really difficult. But I think I am done being sad about it. I think with the goals that I have set for myself, the 10 of Pentacles here, the 8 of Pentacles, and this emotional fulfillment journey here I have later in the year, I think I'm in a better headspace to manifest and have a more positive attitude towards my goals, my wishes, my wants, and putting that out in the world versus just being woe is me about it, I guess. So I guess that's how I've kind of come to interpret this. Again, if you have any insights, let me know. I'm always open to it. But yeah, so those are my thoughts about my cards that I have for the year, for each month. Very interesting month or year, I would say. Little nervous about these over here. I guess these 3 over here. But it is kind of split up interestingly. Like we have like the hard work and career type focus. Then there's something, you know, happening here, and then there's, you know, my sister's wedding here, and then an emotional journey here, and then ending the year hopefully not feeling too drained. Anyway, so yeah, I hope this video isn't getting too long, but there is another section I kind of wanted to add here going forward, and I want to talk about what's upcoming for my channel in January, the intentions I have for my channel. I think it's really important to be transparent with everyone and just kind of talk about the ideas I'm having and the videos that are likely to be released and that you have to look forward to. So the main thing that will be coming up is I will be talking about my deep dive plans with the Majestic Earth Tarot. Again, I set goals in my year ahead video, and one of them is I will be doing a deep dive of 2 decks this year. The first one is the Majestic Earth Tarot, and I will be starting that in February. Right now it's all about the planning, how I'm organizing that study, how I'm going to be setting it up. So I'm going to do a video centered on that. And then another video that I have planned or want to plan is I'll be discussing some essential must-haves for tarot readers. I think if you're a beginner or if you're feeling overwhelmed, which I do a lot of the time, I think this video will be helpful for you. Just the bare bones, like the basics, the must-haves for tarot readers if you're just getting started, or I don't know, even if you're an advanced reader. I think it's always interesting to see how others define must-haves. And then I'll be going through the ways that I personally work with the tarot and how I use it and all the different ways that I use it, because again, I also like seeing how other people use tarot, and there are a lot of creative people in this space, and I feel wholeheartedly inspired by all of you, and I just want to share, and hopefully someone else can feel the same. I want to pass on that energy, that feeling inspired by others, and sharing and truly having a community. So be on the lookout for those videos this month, and I hope you have a wonderful January and a happy 2025. Let's have a good year, guys. And until next time, see you around.